Good morning, everybody. I hope all of you are going well this morning. So as we're just letting people in, as we're quite a lot of people still joining right now, I'm just going to give you guys a little start off by thanking you all for your presence this morning. We're really excited to put this event together and be able to share the information around some of these programs, and obviously to welcome John to our webinar this morning, so he can share some of his thoughts with us this morning. Then we I'll just give a quick little walkthrough of the agenda this morning. So we've got John Weigelt here, National Technology Officer for Microsoft Canada, who will be sharing some of his views on innovation, as well as some of observations on the Canadian market around AI. And we're also going to be welcoming directors of investments from both Scale AI and Invest AI, so that they can talk to you about their programs, how their funds work, some of their investment criteria, and obviously some of the processes to be able to leverage those funds themselves. And then we'll be kind of wrapping everything up with the Q&A session towards the end, which will allow you guys to ask some questions should you have anything around these programs. So what we're going to do first is, as we welcome people, I'll just do a quick little intro of MoveAI and basically who we are here. Our mission at MoveAI is to democratize artificial intelligence. So every day we wake up with this deep need to help organizations identify areas within their business that could be impacted by using these powerful technologies, and also helping them develop those solutions and deploy them into production. As part of our mission, we created a series of events called AI Mornings, and this is actually the fourth session of those series. And really the objective here is to help you guys understand kind of what's going on in the grant landscape here within Canada. So at MoveAI, I work with a very talented pool of individuals, data scientists, data engineers, and people that help in all areas of the business with respect to helping our customers work on their projects and deploy solutions that yield ROI into production. I am one of the partners at MoveAI, so I get to work with a lot of our accounts at the onset and really help them navigate a lot of the grant landscapes. We've seen an increase, a strong uptick in basically the organizations that are looking to leverage these funds. So one of my main roles here at MoveAI is kind of helping organizations speak with these grants and be able to get access to them. And in closing, I would say our key focus here at MoveAI is really focused on applied machine learning projects. So there was a lot of buzz around kind of AI innovation, around how we can basically kind of push the limits of technology for tomorrow, and how organizations are really crunching it in the lab and really creating these really interesting use cases for future application. But what we've decided to focus on is really how can organizations leverage this technology today in a way that machine learning or AI or data science is seen as an approach and not as the solution itself to different issues and opportunities they foresee within their business. And we work with organizations across all industries. So without further ado, I will introduce you to our first speaker this morning. So as I mentioned earlier, John Weigelt is the National Technology Officer for Microsoft Canada. And we will be able to hear his thoughts on the market. So John, it's a pleasure to welcome you this morning.
Thanks, Nicholas. So let's just make sure that everybody can hear me. It's Nicholas, if you could just nod, that's fantastic. It is indeed fantastic to be here this morning to chat with you around leveraging technology for greater opportunities here in Canada. As Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft in Canada, I get the chance to work with companies across the country doing great things with technology. And we are seeing a ton of great technologies that are really catalyzing and changing the way that business is done. It's really, really exciting to see cloud in Canada across different regions, and being able to use computing as resources and simply as a commodity that you can make use of. We see social networking really changing the way that people work together. Internet of Things, really instrumenting the world around us. Advanced connectivity, man, 5G, 6 Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi. We have white space connections, low Earth orbit connections, big data, ML, digital twins, augmented reality, 3D printing. We have great technologies. What's up? We have great technologies that we can bring together to change the way that we do business. But it's not technology for technology's sake. We've seen over the past few months that we've gone virtual everything, virtual medicine, virtual visits, virtual education, virtual governments. Everybody has gone and really transformed the way that we do business. And really changing the way that we see those business outcomes being driven. Satya Nadella, our CEO, has famously said that we've seen years of innovation, digital transformation happen in the process of months. And so we really need to catalyze and keep going with that innovation across the country. I'm known for citing the Center for Innovation and Prosperity out of University of Toronto, and they do studies around the most prosperous regions in North America, and they've picked 16 regions, and Quebec and Ontario have made that list. Unfortunately, Ontario is 14th, and Quebec is 16th in that list. From a prosperity of the region's perspective. And they surmise that the prosperity gap is a productivity gap, and the productivity gap is an innovation gap. Organizations are just not innovating and driving new things to the marketplace. And so we need to build out that innovation in order to help then drive Canadian prosperity. As Canada became 150 years old, Deloitte wrote a number of papers, and these are quite great papers to take a look at and to understand what's happening around Canadian business. These papers are called Canada at 175. And so some of those papers discuss how business feels about innovation. Some of them feel about risk, look at risk taking, and others look at AI. They suggest that Canadian businesses they perceive that they are risk-taking businesses, when in actual fact, only 11% of businesses take informed risks to be able to drive their initiatives forward. One of the more alarming papers that they've published is around this confidence in the use of AI, trust in AI. And it turns out that Canadians have one of the lower trust ratings in AI out of the G8 nations. And so if we're going to seize the opportunity of innovation, if we're going to seize the opportunity of AI, we need to be able to change that dialogue, change that conversation, and continue this momentum that we've had from this crisis, from the COVID crisis, and move that forward to drive Canadian prosperity forward. Now, when I talk to small businesses and medium businesses, there's a lot of misunderstandings around AI. There's a sense that, look, you need to have these data scientists, these big number crunchers, this huge office to be able to manage your AI and ML projects. And so as Nicholas was mentioning, democratizing AI is really the name of the game, having people understand how AI and ML can transform their business. And so it's not merely a new tool. It's a way that we can look at our business and the way that we can look at data. It's totally not about replacing humans, and it's not about robots. There's this sense of the T800 or Robbie the robot coming in and replacing all these workers. And what we've seen as AI has been implemented into the business processes, that employment has actually gone up and it has not been reduced. And so for Microsoft, we're very bullish and optimistic about the future of AI systems, augmenting, empowering individuals, and then really helping address some of the fundamental challenges that we see around the world as poverty, security, justice, education, and healthcare. And AI is core to our business. In Satya Nadella's book, Hit Refresh, AI is a central theme around how we're changing the way that we do our business and how we're moving forward to empower individuals. It's important, though, that whenever we talk about a term and talk about a domain of knowledge, that we get very, very specific. When we come in and have conversations with the business leaders, there are many different aspects of AI that we need to get specific on and have an informed discussion on. We need to talk about the data and, what is the context of collection? What kind of data do you have? What's the quality of data? We heard earlier around, delivering great research and math. And so we have centers of excellence in Canada that do great AI research around new mathematics, new decision making, new ways to codify that decision making. We need to build the APIs to be able to connect up to those strong tools. We need to train our models. We need to know how our algorithms are trained and if they're locked or evolving, how humans interact with those tools. And a new and emerging area is around the security and privacy of AI models. There's model theft or model corruption, called adversarial AI, and making sure that we get specific. So when we're talking about these particular tools with customers, with our business leaders, with the communities at large, let's be very specific about what are those particular elements that we're working through and talking about. And it's important that we draw out, examples that are commonplace for these tools. It wouldn't be a presentation unless I could put doggos in there. And so here's my pups. And this is just a very simple example of how AI and ML can be put into place to help then in your day-to-day routine. And here I have Design Advisor from PowerPoint, which helps me be a little bit more creative, because sometimes as an engineer, I'm not necessarily best at having an eye for how my slides should show up. And when we're talking to empowering businesses across the country, it's examples like wayfinding applications or automatic translation engines or text to speech to text that helps for people that have unique access requirements on particular media styles. Tools like that help people have that aha moment around how AI can help their business be more productive and be more creative. And so at Microsoft, we've written a number of guidance documents that really discuss AI in its role in society. The Future Computed AI in its role in society really frames this dialogue, this discussion that we need to start around how do we implement AI in a responsible manner, because AI is a powerful tool, but if AI goes sideways, then it can have dramatic impacts. And so it started with Satya Nadella's book on Hit Refresh, where he suggested that and proposed 6 principles around responsible AI that can guide the implementation of these tools. And these principles then are permeated throughout the organization, throughout Microsoft, to be able to then build out these ethical principles and ethical standards within the development process. First off is fairness. We know that their bias can creep into AI algorithms. And so we need to make sure that we guard against that bias and make sure we're fair across the communities of interest. We're fair across different genders. We're fair across different ethnicities. We need to make sure that AI is reliable and safe. And that we have repeatable practices. If we're going to use AI for health diagnosis, then we need to make sure that it's reliable and safe in doing that health diagnosis. We need to have advanced privacy and security for AI systems. We've seen with some systems, they can be tricked by simply painting a line for an automated vehicle and having it swerve out of the way. So we need to guard against that. Inclusiveness, we need to recognize that people have different modalities for accessing our systems and making sure that we include the broadest community of interest so that people with vision challenges can continue to use tools, or individuals that need to have spoken word lists given to them that includes that community as well. We need to make sure they're transparent so that we know how the decision making is being done. We've seen systems that learned on different artifacts, different types of data than we expected. And so how do we make sure that the systems are indeed reasoning over the right data? And human accountability needs to continue to be part of that conversation so that the human remains in the loop and that there is redress in case of things not having the right decision making that's happening. In Canada, we're leaders in this space, and recently the CIO Strategy Council, which is Canada's newest standards body, published the ethical design and use of automated decision systems, helping provide governance models and structures to help guide organizations to be able to roll out AI in a responsible fashion. Now, how do we land some of these innovative initiatives? How do we build an innovation within the broader framework of the Canadian construct? Well, if you would have looked before 5 years ago, there was a field, not a field of dreams, but let 1,000 flowers bloom model for developing accelerators or innovation environments. And so these 1,000 flowers bloomed really created an environment where we saw innovation accelerators pop up in every neighborhood almost. And we had competing accelerators in different communities, and funding got peanut buttered across a wide variety of different areas. Following that, the Canadian government took a look at the environment and said, let's pick our spots. And they created a competition where they invited innovation clusters to come forward and with ideas around how to foster innovation in the Canadian marketplace. Some 30 proposals were put forward, and out of those 30 proposals, 5 innovation superclusters were chosen. And these 5 innovation superclusters would see matching investments from the Canadian government to be able to build out around some key themes. And these 5 innovation superclusters include the Digital Technology Supercluster, headquartered in BC, Proteins Innovation Council, which is an plant-based agriculture supercluster in central Canada, Advanced Manufacturing in Ontario, the Scale AI out of Montreal, and the Oceans Supercluster that are out in the Atlantic provinces. But to be clear, these superclusters do span the nation and are able to drive innovation across different communities. And what's really, really great about these superclusters, because I have the good fortune of being one of the only organizations that works across all 5 superclusters, is that the innovation is intended to float all boats across the communities. And so, for example, in the Ocean Supercluster, there's this idea of environmental characterization and looking at a combined platform approach to be able to support not only natural resource exploration within our oceans, but also our aquaculture, trade, transportation. And so building out these platform plays to help then Canada project our know-how around the world with these different initiatives. And so we're quite proud at Microsoft to be able to be supporting a few key projects. And just a snapshot here, out in the Ocean Supercluster, we're working with a consortium to build out a digital twin of the ocean platforms. And you can imagine having a digital twin that represents fully in a digital fashion these physical artifacts that are within these dangerous regions. And so being able then to have this distance engineering, safety protection, and also to understand the interactions with the biosphere around it is critically important. In British Columbia, we have the Freshwater Commons, which is putting Internet of Things sensors on some of the interior lakes to be able to recognize and identify where there are challenges or year-on-year differences within the water tables. In advanced manufacturing, using artificial intelligence and machine vision to do predictive maintenance on large-scale equipment. And you can imagine we have this context of Internet of Things perhaps being a small baby monitor or a camera that we keep in the home, and yet Internet of Things goes far broader than that. We have $1 million devices that are instrumented and managed with that community. And with COVID-19, there was a rapid advance to look for solutions that could help us through the crisis, and being able to have wellness and access control or wellness monitoring and measuring to help us get back to work safely was another one of those projects. We have over 40 projects that we're pursuing within this environment, and there's countless others that provide opportunities to really shine in examples of Canadian know-how and innovation and be able to export that. As well, we're really excited about our own work in AI for Good, and we have a number of initiatives to help really change the way that we live around the world. And so AI for Good includes a number of different projects, including AI for Health, AI for Humanitarian Aid, AI for societal and historical recognition, and AI for Earth. Now, when you're getting started with the AI environment and working to democratize and to bring these tools together, it's often helpful to assist the senior management and senior leaders in organizations understand how AI can catalyze and work their business. And we've got a free AI business school that helps organizations understand how AI can help their business, build an AI-ready culture, and then finally build a governance structure for those communities. There you have very, very rapidly a tour de table of some of the work that's we see happening across the country with technology innovation. Some of the opportunities within the superclusters to think big. I always love this mashup of Richard Florida and Thomas Friedman. Richard Florida, of course, talks about the spikiness of regions and Canada's exceptionally spiky, innovative people coming together. And then we can take that page from Friedman and project our know-how around the world. And so by the use of some of these advanced programs and some of these communities, we're able then to cluster our communities together, understand how we can use these technologies to change tough business problems, not only in Canada, but around the world.
Well, John, thank you very much for that quick overview of that brain dump, I'll call it, of what you've observed in the market. It's a lot of information, and I just wanted to kind of recap on some of the items that I saw there that I thought are very relevant for conversations we have on a day-to-day basis. That last part about executives and understanding how AI applies to the business. We've seen an evolution over the past few years of originally this fear of others are doing it, I'm not, I need to do it. And how we've kind of gone to the point where most have started to look at how other organizations are actually using the use case itself and understanding whether or not that type of use case would be something of value within their organization, and starting to look at AI more of a way to solve issues or take advantage of opportunities rather than ways to basically innovate from a technology standpoint. So we've really seen AI leave the lab itself and really being treated more as projects that are being deemed as production ready projects. So it's really, really interesting. And thank you very much for sharing your thought leadership on that. We've come to the end of this morning's time block, so I just want to respect everybody's time. First, I'd like to thank John sincerely for joining me today. We had the opportunity to speak a few weeks ago and in preparation for this event, and I was like, this is going to be a great event to be able to welcome John and have him share his thoughts on the market. I also want to thank all of you participants for your time with us this morning. We hope that the information that we've shared with you is going to be helpful in terms of helping you guys with your processes internally in terms of ideation and how AI can be applicable. If you have any questions whatsoever, we'll be happy to share those answers with you. And finally, if there are any other, John, if you had any parting remarks, and then we'll let everybody get back to their day.
Thanks, Nicholas. It's truly a pleasure to chat with the audience here. I think the best thing to do is to get started, to understand how AI can help your business, and as well to just gain an appreciation that AI, it doesn't have to be something for the heavy mathematicians, that these tools are democratized and are easily implementable within your organization.
Well, John, thank you very much, and everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers.